हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू द लाइव सेशन। तो आज हम देखेंगे एनसीईआरटी ज्योग्राफी क्लास 11 का चैप्टर 7 लैंडफॉर्म एंड देयर इवोल्यूशन। तो शुरू करते हैं आज का सेशन। After weathering processes have had their actions on the earth materials, making of the surface of the earth, the geomorphic agents like running water, groundwater, wind, glaciers, waves perform erosion. It is already known to you that erosion causes changes on the surface of the earth. Deposition follows erosion, and because of deposition too, changes occur on the surface of the earth. As this chapter deals with landforms and their evolution, first start with the question, what is landform? In simple words, small to medium tracts of parcels of the earth's surface are called landforms. If landform is a small to medium sized part of the surface of the earth, what is a landscape? Several related landforms together make up landscapes. Large tracts of earth's surfaces. Each landform has its own physical shape, size, materials, and is a result of the action of certain geomorphic processes and agents. Actions of most of the geomorphic processes and agents are slow, and hence the results take a long time to take shape. Every landform has a beginning. Landforms once formed may change in their shape, size, and nature slowly, or first due to continued action of geomorphic processes and agents. Due to changes in climatic condition and vertical or horizontal movement of land masses, either the intensity of processes or the processes themselves might change, leading to new modifications in the landform. Evolution here implies stages of transformation of either a part of the earth surface from one landform into another, or transformation of individual landforms after they are once formed. That means each and every landform has a history of development and changes through time. A landmass passes through stages of development somewhat comparably to the stages of life, youth, mature, and old age. What are the two important aspects of the evolution of landforms? Running water. In humid regions which receive heavy rainfall, running water is considered the uh, most important of the geomorphic agents in bringing about the degradation of the land surface. There are two components of running water. One is overland flow or general land surface as a seed. Another is linear flow as streams and rivers in valleys. Most of the erosional landforms made by running water are associated with vigorous and youthful rivers flowing over steep gradients. With time, stream channels over steep gradients turn gentler due to continued erosion and as a consequence lose their velocity, facilitating active deposition. There may be depositional forms associated with streams flowing over steep slopes, but these phenomena will be on a small scale compared to those associated with rivers flowing over medium to gentle slopes. The gentler the river channels in gradient or slope, the greater is the deposition. When the stream beds turn gentler due to continued erosion, downward cutting becomes less dominant and lateral erosion of banks increases, and as a consequence the hills and valleys are reduced to plains. Is complete reduction of relief of a high landmass possible? Overland flow causes seed erosion depending upon irregularities of the land surface. The overland flow may concentrate into narrow to wide paths. Because of the shear friction of the column of flowing water, minor or major quantities of materials from the surface of the land are removed in the direction of flow, and gradually small and narrow rills will form. These rills will gradually develop into long and wide gullies. The gullies will further deepen, widen, lengthen, and unite to give rise to a network of valleys. In the early stages, down cutting dominates, during which irregularities such as waterfalls and cascades will be removed. In the middle stages, streams cut their beds slower and lateral erosion of valley side becomes severe. Gradually, the valley sides are reduced to lower and lower slopes. The divides between drainage basins are likewise lowered until they are almost completely flattened, leaving finally a lowland of faint relief with some low resistant remnants called monadnocks standing out here and there. This type of plain forming as a result of stream erosion is called a penny plain and almost plain. The characteristics of each of the stages of landscapes developing in running water regimes may be summarized as follows. Youth. Streams are few during this stage with four integration and flow over original slopes, showing shallow V-shaped valleys with no flood plains or with very narrow flood plains. Along trunk streams. Streams divides are broad and flat with marshes, swamps, and lakes. Meanders, if present, develop over these broad upland surfaces. These meanders may eventually entrench themselves into the uplands. Waterfalls and rapids may exist where local hard rock bodies are exposed. Mature. During this stage, streams are plenty with good integration. The valleys are still V-shaped, but deep trunk streams are broad enough to have wider floodplains within which streams may flow in meanders confined within the valley. The flat and broad interstream areas and swamps and marshes of youth disappears and the stream divides turn sharp. Waterfalls and rapids disappear. Old. Small tributaries during old age are few with gentle gradients. Streams meander freely over vast floodplains, showing natural leaves, oxbow lakes, etc. Divides are broad and flat with lakes, swamps, and marshes. Most of the landscape is at or slightly above sea level. Erosional landforms. Valleys. Valleys start as small and narrow rills. The rills will gradually develop into long and wide gullies. The gullies will further deepen, widen, and lengthen to give rise to valleys. Depending upon dimension and shape, many types of valleys like V-shaped valleys, gorge, canyon, etc. can be recognized. A gorge is a deep valley with a very steep to straight sides, and a canyon is characterized by steep step-like side slopes and may be as deep as a gorge. A gorge is almost equal in width at its top as well as its bottom. In contrast, a canyon is wider at its top than at its bottom. In fact, a canyon is a variant of gorge. Valley types depend upon the type and structure of rocks in which they form. For example, canyons commonly form in horizontal bedded sedimentary rocks and gorges form in hard rocks. Potholes and plunge pools. Over the rocky beds of hill streams, more or less circular depression called potholes form because of stream erosion aided by the abrasion of rock fragments. Once a small and shallow depression forms, pebbles and boulders get collected in those depressions and get rotated by flowing water, and consequently the depression grow in dimensions. A series of such depressions eventually join and the stream valley gets deepened. At the foot, waterfalls at the foot of waterfalls also large potholes quite deep and wide form because of the sheer impact of water and rotation of boulders. Such large and deep holes at the base of waterfall are called plunge pools. Incised or entrenched meanders. In streams that flow rapidly over steep gradients, normally erosion is concentrated on the bottom of the stream channel. Also, in the case of steep gradient stream, lateral erosion on the sides of the valleys is not much when compared to the streams flowing on the low and gentle slopes. Because of the active lateral erosion, streams flowing over gentle slopes develop sinuous or meandering courses. It is common to find meandering courses over flood plains and delta plains, where stream gradients are very gentle but very deep, and wide meanders can also be found cut in hard rocks. Such meanders are called incised or entrenched meanders. River terraces. River terraces are surfaces marking old valley floor or floodplain levels. They may be bedrock surfaces without any alluvial cover or alluvial terraces consisting of stream deposits. River terraces are basically products of erosion as they result due to vertical erosion by the stream into its own depositional floodplain. There can be a number of such terraces at different heights, indicating former riverbed levels. The river terraces may occur at the same elevation on either side of the rivers, in which case they are called paired terraces. Depositional landforms. Alluvial fens. Alluvial fens are formed when streams flowing from higher levels break into foot slopes, plains, or low gradient. Normally, very coarse load is carried by streams flowing over mountain slopes. These loads becomes too heavy for the streams to be carried over gentler gradients and gets dumped and spread as a broad low to high cone shaped deposit called alluvial fan. Usually the stream which flow over fans are not confined to their original channels for long and shift their position across the fan, forming many channels called distributaries. Alluvial fans in humid areas show normally low cones with gentle slopes from head to toe, and they appear as high cones with steep slope in arid and semi-arid climates. Deltas. Deltas are like alluvial fans but developed at a different location. The load carried by the rivers is dumped and spread into the sea. If this load is not carried away far into the sea or distributed along the coast, it spreads and accumulates as a low cone. Unlike in alluvial fens, the deposits making of deltas are very well sorted with clear stratification. The coarse material settle out first and the finer fractions like silts and clay are carried out into the sea. As the delta grows, the river distributaries continue to increase in length and delta continues to build up into the sea. Floodplains, natural leaves, and point bars. Deposition develops a floodplain just as erosion makes valleys. Floodplain is a major landform of river deposition. Large-sized materials are deposited first when stream channel breaks into a gentle slope. Thus, normally fine-sized material like sand, silt, and clay are carried by relatively slow-moving water in gentler channels, usually found in the plains and deposited over the bed. And when the water spilled over the banks during flooding above the bed, a riverbed made of river deposits is the active floodplain. The floodplain above the bank in inactive floodplain. Inactive floodplain above the banks basically contain two types of deposits: flood deposits and channel deposits. In plains, channels shift laterally and changes their courses occasionally, leaving cut-off courses which gets filled up gradually. Such areas over floodplains built up by abandoned or cut-off channels contain coarse deposits. The flood deposits of spilled waters carry relatively finer materials like silt and clay. The floodplain in a delta are called delta plain. Natural leaves and point bars are some of the important landforms found associated with floodplains. Natural leaves are found along the banks of large rivers. They are low, linear, and parallel ridges of coarse deposits along the banks of rivers, quite often cut into individual mounds. Point bars are also known as meander bars. They are found on the concave side of the meanders of large rivers and are sediments deposits in a linear fashion by flowing waters along the bank. They are almost uniform in profile and width and contain mixed sizes of sediments. In what way do natural leaves differ from point bars? Meanders. In large flood and delta plains, rivers rarely flow in straight course. Loop-like channel patterns called meanders develop over flood and delta plains. Meander is not a landform but is only a type of channel pattern. This is because of propensity of water flowing over very gentle gradients to work laterally on the banks, unconsolidated nature of alluvial deposits, making of the banks with many irregularities which can be used by water exerting pressure laterally. Coriolis force acting on the fluid water, deflecting it like it deflects the wind. When the gradient of the channel becomes extremely low, water flows leisurely and start working laterally. Slight irregularities along the banks slowly get transferred into a small curvature in the banks. The curvature depends due to deposition on the inside of the curves and erosion along the banks on the outside. If there is no deposition and no erosion or undercutting, the tendency to meander is reduced. Normally, in meanders of large rivers, there is active deposition along the concave bank and undercutting along the convex bank. The concave bank is known as cut-up bank, which shows us up a steep scarp, and the convex bank presents a long, gentle profile. As meander grows into deep loops, the same may get cut up due to erosion at the inflection points and are left as oxbow lakes. Groundwater. Here the interest is not on groundwater as a resource. Our focus is on the work of groundwater in the erosion of land masses and evolution of land mass. The surface water percolates well when the rocks are permeable, thinly padded and highly jointed and cracked. After vertical going down to some depth, the water under the ground flows horizontally through the bedding planes, joints, or through the materials themselves. It is this downward and horizontal movement of water which causes the rocks to erode. Physical or mechanical removal of materials by moving groundwater is insignificant in developing landforms. That is why the results of work of groundwater cannot be seen in all types of rocks. But in rocks like limestone or dolomites rich in calcium carbonate, the surface water as well as groundwater through the chemical process of solution and precipitation deposition develops varieties of landforms. These two processes of solution and precipitations are active in limestone or dolomites, occurring either exclusively or integrated with other rocks. Any limestone or dolomitic region showing typical landforms produced by the action of groundwater through the process of solution and deposition is called karst topography. After a typical topography developed in limestone, rocks of karst region in the Balkans adjacent to Adriatic Sea, the karst topography is also characterized by erosional and depositional landforms. Erosional landforms, pools, sinkholes, lapids, and limestone pavements. Small to medium sized, round to sub-rounded shallow depression called shallow holes form on the surface of limestones through solution. Sinkholes are very common in limestone or karst areas. A sinkhole is an opening more or less circular at the top and funnel shaped towards the bottom, with sizes varying in area from a few square meter to a hectare and with depth from a less than half a meter to 30 meters or more. Some of these form solely through solution action, solution 6, and other might start as solution forms fast, and if the bottom of a sinkhole forms the roof of a void or cave underground, it might collapse, leaving a large hole opening into a cave or a void below. Collapsing. Quite often, sinkholes are covered up with soil, mantle, and appear as shallow water pools. Anybody stepping over such pools would go down like it happens in quicksands in deserts. The term doline is sometimes used to refer the collapsed sinks. Solution sinks are more common than collapse sinks. Quite often, the surface runoff simply goes down shallow and sinkholes and flows as underground streams and re-emerge at a distant downstream through a cave opening. When sinkholes and dolines join together because of slumping of materials along their margins or due to roof collapse of caves, long, narrow to wide trenches called valley sinks or ovalas form. Gradually, most of the surface of the limestone is eaten away by these pits and trenches, leaving it extensively irregular with a maze of points, groups, and ridges or laps. Especially these ridges or laps form due to differential solution activity along parallel to subparallel joints. The lap field may eventually turn into somewhat smooth limestone pavements. Caves. In areas where there are alternating beds of rocks, shale, sandstone quartzites with limestone or dolomites in between, or in areas where limestone are dense, massive, and occurring as thick beds, cave formation is prominent. Water percolates down either through the materials or through cracks and joints and moves horizontally along bedding planes. It is along these bedding planes that the limestone dissolve long and narrow to wide gaps called caves result. There can be a maze of caves at different elevation depending on the limestone beds and interwoven rocks. Caves normally have an opening through which cave streams are discharged. Caves having openings at both ends are called tunnels. Depositional landform. Many depositional forms develop within the limestone caves. The chief chemical in limestone is calcium carbonate, which is easily soluble in carbonated water, carbon dioxide, azote, rainwater. This calcium carbonate is deposited when the water carrying it in solution evaporates or loses its carbon dioxide as it trickles over rough rock surfaces. Stalactites, stalagmites, and pillars. Stalactites hang as icicles of different diameters. Normally, they are broad at their bases and taper towards the pre-ends, showing up in a variety of forms. Stalagmites rise up from the floor of the caves. In fact, stalagmites form due to dripping water from the surface or through the thin pipe of the stalactite immediately below it. Stalag- Stalagmites may take the shape of a column, a disc with either a smooth, rounded, bulging edge or a miniature crater like depression. The stalagmite and stalactite eventually fuse to give rise to columns and pillars of different diameters. Glaciers. Masses of ice moving as sheets over the land, continental glacier or predominant glacier, if a vast sheet of ice is spread over the plains at the foot of mountains, or as linear flows down the slopes of mountains in broad trough-like valleys. Mountain and valley glaciers are called glaciers. The movement of glaciers is slow, unlike water flow. The movement could be a few centimeters to a few meters a day, or even less or more. Glaciers move basically because of the force of gravity. We have many glaciers in our country moving down the slopes and valleys in Himalayas. Higher reaches of Uttaranchal, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir are places to see some of them. Do you know where one can see river Bhagirathi is basically fed by meltwaters from under the snow? Gomukh of the Gangotri Glacier. In fact, Alkapuri Glacier feeds water to Alkananda River. Rivers Alaknanda and Bhagirathi join to make River Ganga near Deoprayag. Erosion by glaciers is tremendous because of friction caused by sheer weight of the ice. The material plucked from the land by glacier, usually large-sized angular blocks and fragments, get dragged along the floors or sides of the valley and cause great damage through abrasion and plucking. Glaciers can cause significant damage to even unweathered rocks and can reduce high mountains into low hills and plains. As glaciers continue to move, debris get removed, divides get lowered, and eventually the slope is reduced to such an extent that the glaciers will stop moving, leaving only a mass of low hills and vast outward plains along with other depositional features. Figure show various glacial erosion and depositional forms described in the text. Erosional landforms. Cirque. Cirques are the most common of landforms in glaciated mountains. The cirques quite often are found at the heads of glacial valleys. The accumulated ice cuts these cirques while moving down the mountain tops. They are deep, long, and wide troughs or basins with very steep concave to vertically drooping high walls at its heads as well as sides. A lake of a lake of water can be quite often within the cirques after the glacier disappears. Such lakes are called cirque or tarn lakes. There can be two or more cirques, one leading into another down below in a steep sequence. Horns and serrated ridges. Horns form through headward erosion of the cirque walls. If three or more radiating glaciers cut headward until the cirques meet, high sharp pointed and steep sided peaks called horns form. The divides between cirque side walls or head walls get narrow because of progressive erosion and turn into serrated or sawtooth ridges, sometimes referred to as eddies, with very sharp crest and a zigzag outline. The highest peak in the Alps, Matterhorn, and the highest peak in the Himalayas, Everest, are in fact horns formed through headward erosion of radiating cirques. Glacial valleys or troughs. Glaciated valleys are trough-like and U-shaped with broad floors and relatively smooth and steep sides. The valleys may contain littered debris or debris shaped as moraines with swampy appearance. There may be lakes washed out of rocky floor or formed by debris within the valleys. There can be hanging valleys at an elevation on one or both sides of the main glacial valley. The faces of divides or spurs of such hanging valleys opening into main glacial valleys are quite often truncated to give them an appearance like triangular facets. Very deep glacial troughs filled with seawater and making up shoal lines in high latitudes are called fjords or fords. What are the basic difference between glacial valleys and river valleys? तो आज के लिए हम इतना ही रखते हैं. इस चैप्टर को हम कल के सेशन में कंप्लीट करेंगे. आज के लिए इतना ही. थैंक यू. थैंक्स फॉर ज्वाइनिंग.